Now available on Tata Sky channel number 526.
Welcome to Magic Bricks Now. You're watching the Urban Debate. This is India's first property channel. I'm Faye D'Souza. Let's take a look at the top headlines of the day. The Real Estate Regulatory Authority Bill will be tabled in the Rajya Sabha on Tuesday. That's very, very heartening for home buyers across the country. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, the government releases the rules for its own regulator. Those are our top stories tonight. Uttar Pradesh plans to hike stamp duty by 2% in the already ailing Noida property market. But an online signature campaign has already begun by home buyers, forcing the government to rethink its stand. And more polluted lakes in Bangalore. This time it's Ulsoor. Morning walkers at Ulsoor Lake spot dead fish floating around the sides of the lake. Will the civic body finally step up and take notice? Well, we're having a very special urban debate this evening in the run-up to Women's Day on the 8th of March. We want to break the general myth that real estate as an investment and as an asset belongs exclusively to male investors. That's no longer true. A sizable number, nearly 1/5 of the home buyers in India are women. Half of the home loan borrowers in India are women. Today on the Urban Debate, we focus on you. If you're a woman watching at home, you're in the process of buying any sort of property and you want advice right now about the home loan, the documents, the property you want to buy, the legal problems that we face as women when it comes to inheriting and to divorce, we have all of the answers here with you because we have a panel like no other. This is my panel for this evening. Abha Singh is a lawyer and an activist. She'll help us with all of our legal problems. Jayashree Kurup, Head of Content and Research at magicbricks.com, is our property expert. Adhil Shetty, CEO and co-founder at bankbazaar.com, is our loan expert. Karthik Zaveri, founder and director of Transcend Consulting, will help us with all of our finances. This is what we're going to do. There'll be a phone line that will flash at the bottom of your screen, and you can pick up that phone line and ask us any question you want. If you're a woman calling us, that's all we need to know. We're going to try and answer as many questions as we can over the next 1 hour between 9 and 10 o'clock. Abha Singh, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, we're moving into a completely different phase when it comes to property. Women are now allowed to inherit just as much as their siblings and their brothers were up till now. But there's this whole other confusion when it comes to buying home loans, buying homes and joint home loans. The problem of divorce, which is far more rampant. What is your advice right now to either women who are going through divorce or women who are already divorced when it comes to claiming their right to property? What are they entitled to?
See, the main issue is if anything is purchased or gifted at the time of marriage, either by your friends, relatives or family, then the woman has full, whole soul right to it. However, if there is any property which is jointly owned, then for that the courts have a right under the Hindu Marriage Act section 27. The courts can decide at the time of giving the decree of divorce, they would look into the joint property. However, if the property is in the name of the husband, then the woman has no stake in it, does not get anything out of it at the time of divorce. Yes. So I think I would always tell women that if you are buying, it is always seen that women out of sheer love for their husbands, they agree to property being bought by the husband. As you were saying, in fact, world across, barely 1% property is owned by women. So women, in their large-heartedness, give it to the men. It is in the name of the men. And even if the women have paid, the property belongs to the man. And at the time of divorce, it is very difficult to prove that the woman has a share in it. So I would advise all the women that howsoever you may love your husband, but any property you buy, make it joint and or it is in your name.
Make it joint or it's in your name. And of course, Abha, the other thing that we have to talk about is inheritance. We now have the legal system on our side when it comes to inheriting equally, along with our male siblings. But if someone feels that they're not being treated right in terms of inheritance, what should they do?
See, Hindu Succession Act, now it declares a girl child also as a co-partner. In fact, the recent Delhi High Court order has now declared that the eldest female child, even if there is a male child younger to her, she can be the karta. So the karta makes it that she can handle the property, she can be the administrator, she can be the manager. Now as a co-partner, she has full right to the landed property belonging to her ancestors, and she can move a partition suit in the court if she feels that her share is not being given to her. Regarding exclusive property of her husband, if her wife is living in that, then her rights are totally entrenched into that portion where she is living. Nobody can deny her from living in that house. So she has a right to live in that house. She can move a partition suit if she is being deprived of her property. And also the law is very clear that if anything is bought out of Stridhan and the husband misappropriates it, then as per IPC 405 and 406, criminal breach of trust case can be filed on the husband.
So, for example, if you're saying when at your wedding, if your parents are giving you a gift of some sort of monetary value, you have to make sure it's registered in your name alone, if I'm the woman in question?
Definitely, because otherwise you have to have the payment receipts or the checks. You'll have to prove in the court that you have put your money in it. But anything around the time of marriage, after the marriage, brought with your Stridhan is the whole sole property of the wife. So I personally feel that the women at that time should ensure that even if they are getting some cash gifts or whatever, they should register, show it in their property returns that that property is theirs, because in case later on there are problems, nobody can touch a woman's Stridhan, otherwise he faces the wrath of the police and the law.
All right. So if you're watching at home right now and you have a question for Abha, you have a question for us, here's what you can do. Pick up the phone and call us. If you want to keep your name anonymous, we'll do that as well. We just want to help. Adhil Shetty. Of course, the number of women borrowing home loans have been going up drastically over the last couple of years. What is the latest statistic according to you? How many women are co-signing on loans right now?
So we've definitely seen, whether it comes to researching online, whether it comes to applying as a primary applicant or as a co-applicant, the number of or the proportion of women versus men is increasing. So if I dial back a couple of years ago, just 10% of the visitors on Bank Bazaar were women. Today, over 30% of the visitors coming to research home loans, car loans, happen to be women. So I think it's definitely a trend. I think there are a lot of products today which are available in the market which offer certain discounts to women when it comes to a home loan, assuming a woman is either the first or the second co-applicant. The trending is very clear. Women are becoming a lot more savvy when it comes to financial decision making, and they're also researching the information and helping their families take the right decision.
All right, I'm told we have somebody on the phone line already. Here's a lady who wants to keep her name anonymous, which we're going to do that. Go ahead. Good evening. Tell us what your question is and how can we help you?
Hi. So, me and my husband, we bought a house about 3 years back. And of course, I was a co-applicant, and we are actually now going through a divorce. So I just wanted to understand what are the legal implications about my EMIs and, my rights in the house and things like that.
How much of the loan is already paid off? How much of it is due?
So, of course, it was a 25-year loan.
Right.
So we took a long-term loan, and of course, it was only 3 years back. So, like I said, there's quite a significant amount is due right now.
And if I might ask, the down payment that was paid, the 20% that went down as a down payment, which account did that go out of? Was it a joint account? Was it your account? Was it his account?
His account.
It was his account. Abha, what rights does she have right now to this home?
See, since it's a joint property, it is registered in both their names. The courts have full right to look into this matter, and at the time of the divorce decree, she can be given a party. The property can be sold off. That is one basis that they both divide it equally. Or if the court wants, and it's on the applicant's application saying that she's ready to take over the EMI, give the share what is due to the husband, then the house also can be transferred in her name. So this is is what is important, that since it's a joint property, you must move the court in your divorce decree that this house was brought jointly, show the papers, what money you've paid, and if you're ready to take over the EMIs, and the house should be given to you. However, even apart from this property, you would have a maintenance also, an alimony which your husband will be supposed to give you. So this would be extra to that.
How is the alimony, calculated, Abha?
See, the courts are very clear that a wife is, the husband has to ensure that the wife lives the same lifestyle status which she has been living. So that would be the lifestyle. In fact, now you would see like the latest divorce case which was going of Karishma, where she's asked for 20 crores for mental torture, plus for the children maintenance. So now, I mean, sky is the limit. You can ask for, people are asking any amount, but yes, what is required is the maintenance for the child education and also the lifestyle which you are used to. That is how it calculates roughly. I mean, if you go abroad, it is all 50-50, but in India, it's nothing like that. But a reasonable amount of alimony is given. There is an option that you can take a one-time alimony also, because it happens, suppose a woman wants to get married. At that time, the law is very clear that the alimony will be stopped. So if you are young, you must go for a one-time settlement so that it doesn't bar you from getting married again, because in case you marry, your alimony will be stopped.
All right, I very quickly want to ask the viewer who's on the phone line, would you prefer to take on the EMIs and keep the house? Or would you just want a portion of that to be valued and given to you? What would you prefer? Okay, we seem to have lost her on that phone line, but we hope we've helped. Savita is on the phone line from Delhi. Savita, go ahead. Tell us what your question is.
Yeah, actually, I have this property in Goa and it's in my husband's name, and I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
Now, I have been told that after marriage, like when my daughters get married and if I want to sell my property, their spouse will have equal right on that property, which I don't want. I want that property should be only me. It should be the money that I'll get should only be mine and my husband. Why should my daughters' spouses should get share in that?
That's a very...
I just wanted to know that.
I don't think that's true, Abha. Is that true at all?
No, not at all. See, it's usually abroad, foreign countries, they have it like that, that whatever the wife has, 50% is the husband's, or whatever the husband has, you have it 50%. But India, it is not like that, because if it is a property which you have acquired, you have a right to will it to whosoever you want, because it is not ancestral. So, secondly, the husband will have no right in it, because it would be a stridan, which would be whole soul ownership of your daughter. So you need not worry that the son-in-law is going to get a share of it in case anything adverse happens.
Would you advise her to make a very clear will as well while she's worried about something like this?
That is very important, because if a will is there, then nobody can question it, nobody can fight it in the court of law, because whatever is acquired by a person during his lifetime, he has full right to will it. In case there is no will, then of course it's free for all. There are court cases which go on for years, 20 years, 30 years. So I would advise you that you please will it in your daughter's name, and in case there is some money, you can always put your name also to it.
Her husband should also very clearly make a will at this point, right? And they should be 2 separate wills?
Of course, that can be both ways. Both of you can make separate wills. It would make things very easy, and it will be systematic. And also what is important is that you can always show some loan in this property to your daughter in case you want to transfer it in her name, so that you are always there in it, and if there is a partition later on, you would have an equal share in the property.
Savita, does that help? Do you have any other questions?
No, I still want to know one thing, that I've been told that when I sell the property after my daughters get married, I can't sell the property till their spouse also sign on the property. I can't sell it over.
No, Savita, according to Abha, there's no such entitlement to anybody's spouse.
There is no such law like that, that it is your the plot is in your name and your husband's. Then how can a son-in-law come into it?
The house is currently in her husband's name alone, which means that her husband will have to will it to her and give her full rights to sell it if she wants to, right?
See, if the house, is it a joint property? If it is not a joint property, then it is your husband. In case your husband dies without leaving a will, then it would be divided equally between you and your daughter. That will be 2 of you there, but the son-in-law would not come into it. But if your husband writes a will and wills it only to you, then only after you it can go to your daughter as per
And
the
she'll
will.
be able to sell it as whenever she wants to without having to take any sort of NOCs from anybody, right?
No, that only if the husband wills it
Wills
to
it
her.
to her,
But
right.
if he dies intestate without a will, then it will be equally divided, because the wife has one share and it is the equal share of, there were 2 children, 3 children. Here, since there's only one girl, so it will be divided equally. Then she cannot sell it without her daughter's NOC.
All right. So, Savita, it's very clear that the best thing to do right now is to have your husband write a very, very clear will, willing the property to you and giving you full rights to sell it when you want to. If that doesn't happen, then of course that property will be split 3 ways between you and your 2 daughters. But even so, even in that case, neither sons-in-law will have any entitlement to this property whatsoever. All right.
Thank you.
All right. The phone lines are still open. If you have a question for us, pick up the phone and call us. We're going to take more calls. But I want to bring in Jayashree Kurup. Jayashree, obviously, the other trend that we're noticing, like Adhil was telling us, is that women are doing far more research when it comes to buying homes, whether they're doing so as individuals or as part of a unit of a family. Again, this is a big, big decision. If you were to make a checklist of documents, if I'm a single woman right now buying a home, what are the documents that I have to make sure that I take a look at to make sure that my money is safe?
Faye, we ran a survey on Magic Bricks and we found that even if you're not a single woman, you're part of a family, it is the woman who does the research for the house. Most of the, about 30-40% of our consumers said that it is the woman who does all the research for the house. This is a big change from what we found 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago, where women, about 10-15% of women were actively involved in the property research. Now it is up to about 30% of women. Now, going back to your question, what is the checklist? First of all, you have to ensure that it is not an agricultural property. Check the land titles, that the change in land use has been effected so that this property can actually hold a residential development. The second thing is that the title should be in the name of whoever, the developer or joint. If it's a joint holding between a developer and a land banker, you must have the terms clear. The title of the land should be clear. This is where a lot of people falter. The third thing is that the completion certificates and there is a commencement certificate and a completion certificate. Both are equally important. Then there comes the occupancy certificate. This is where a lot of cities, they are having a big problem because the city authorities have been delaying an occupancy certificate. There are about 20 to 60 approvals depending on the state you are in, and those approvals, you are well within your rights to ask the developer to show them to you, because you must check that those are in place.
So here's the advice right now for anybody looking to buy a home, specifically women, because women tend to be risk averse. And if you don't want to take the risk, the best thing to do is to go in and buy something that already has its occupation certificate that allows you to occupy as soon as possible. Even if you're going into the secondary market and buying from a building that's not brand new, just make sure that that's the best way to know exactly what you're buying. You can see the size of the house, you can see the light and the air that's coming through it, you can check all of the papers. So make sure, of course, that you go in and you buy something that's ready to occupy. That will take care of a lot of the pains that's happening in the market right now. Adhil Shetty, obviously, if I go buy something that's pre-cleared by one of the large lenders, there's a certain amount of homework legally that lenders already do before they pre-clear a building. Is that a good way to make sure that, all of the papers are in and there's nothing untoward happening as far as the land titles are concerned or the building permissions are?
Absolutely, Faye. So there are 3 parts to the documents, right? So like you said, the title deeds and the certificates, completion, commencement certificates are very important. 2 other parts which are important are your financial documents. So when a lender is trying to assess, saying how much home loan can I give, what interest rate do I give it at, they want to look at your income statements, they want to look at your pay slips, they want to look at 6-month bank statement data to say what your banking trends have been like. So you need to make sure your financial documents are ready. And lastly, you need to make sure that your know your customer documents are ready. So your proof of residence, your proof of identity, your ability to show that you are who you are when you apply for a product. So I think the title deeds are probably the toughest set of documents. So if that's out of the way, right, All that's remaining is the income documents, financial documents, and the KYC, which is easier.
Adhil, is it true that most banks will not give loans to single women at this point? You have to have another family member sign on as a co-signee or as a guarantor?
So banks have policies on co-applicants which are applicable both to men and women. So a lot of banks out there, when you take a home loan, right, need you to have a co-applicant. By policy, right, lenders don't differentiate against single women. So if a bank might have a condition both for a primary male and for a primary female to have a co-applicant, but by policy, right, no one is allowed to discriminate.
Abba Singh, that seems a little unfair to me. Right now, we're working alongside, our male counterparts in every way. To be denied a home loan from a bank because we don't have a family member to sign on. So nobody's single. Adhil tells us neither the men nor the women. But right now, if I'm a single woman buying a home, taking a home loan, I have to get my father to sign on or my mother to sign on or some sort of family member to sign on because I seem like a risk. That seems unfair to me.
Of course, I think it is discriminatory and high time the women petitioned the court that this discriminatory clause in the banking loans should be removed. Not only this, because women do not have property in their name, so it's very difficult for them to give a collateral. And I said very few, they may be researching 30%, but end of the day, barely 5 to 10% loans are sanctioned to women. Forget single women because they don't have a collateral to offer.
Right. In fact, I'm told Sagrika is on the phone line from Mumbai. Sagrika, go ahead.
Hi.
Yes, Sagrika. Hi. Go ahead. Tell us what you want to say.
So basically, with regard to single women and applying for loans, although yes, the answers have been given by the panelists with regard to saying that I need to have a co-applicant, but I think the banks are opening up right now. In fact, the latest of the schemes also include that if a single woman walks in and asks for an application of the loan, the typical women incentive or the concessions should also be allowed to her. Then her papers should be given the due importance, just like any other collateral which should be given to her married counterpart should also be extended to her. However, saying that the risks are just not at the application stage, I think as a single woman who's looking to invest in the infrastructure sector or the reality sector, the risks or the mitigation of the risks lies beyond. There are quite a number of times that the builders or the agents particularly take you for granted, and that is when you have to actually see what are the concessions that are allowed. One of the most common things is trying to sell off inventory as a part of the deal without giving the concession for it. That is something that needs to be looked into. Being a woman, you also need to look into that whether or not the builder has a credibility history. Where is it that you are really taking up a house? Okay, they might give you a 5% discount, but is it really accessible? Will the project really be completed 2 or 3 years?
Sure.
What are your lines? What are your rights as a consumer? Whether you can really approach the court of law. And most importantly, are they including any clauses in the agreement which in the future might just really turn against you?
All right. It's fair what Sagrika has just pointed out, the risks that come with buying a home, but those risks currently are shared between male and female home buyers. The fact that we've had issues with delivery, we've had issues with one-sided, contracts that developers sign with their customers at this point. But there is consumer court for this, for the time being. And in the future, we might have, an appellate tribunal that comes with the real estate regulator. So a lot of times, women tend to shy away from the courts of law, whether it's consumer court, whether it's family court. If there's a woman watching right now who's a little worried about actually taking something to the courts, what advice would you give them? Abba?
See, the issue is, in fact, recently the court ordered in one of the cases that in the builder, if he has delayed the possession, he was been asked to pay a high fine and also for the thing. So I think women, when they are signing a contract, when they are buying a property, they must read. It usually happens that women don't read line by line. They just feel that they are gullible. They just sign on the dotted lines, and this is where the catch is. A lot of builders would put ifs and buts, and that is why when you go to the court, you fall flat on your face and the builder goes scot-free. So it is necessary that you must have everything documented, registered, so that if there is is any issue, you can go to the court. And I think that is why even your sites like Magic Bricks and all can come to their help, because then you get to know the details, whether the builder has a criminal record, whether the builder is genuine, as you said, whether he had the NOC and other papers are there, the title deeds are clear. These are the things which must be seen, and whether his credibility, whether in future he has completed his projects or not. So I think due research, due diligence is required before buying any property.
All right, that checklist of documents that you have to look for is on your screen right now. If you want a copy of it, get in touch on the phone number and my team will email a copy to you. Abba, obviously, the best thing to do, and this is advice to any home buyer, is to have 3 people on your side when you're buying a home. One is, of course, your lawyer who looks through every document, every last sentence and makes sure that before you sign something, that thing is on the up and up. Second is an architect who takes a look at the plans, who takes a look at the blueprint or at the final home to make sure that you're actually getting the carpet value, the carpet area that you've paid for. And third is your financial advisor who will make sure that the loan that you're taking or the EMI that you're servicing is something that can actually fit into your household budget. All of these 3 people have to be with you while you're taking a loan. Abba, obviously, the lawyer has to be there from the first day looking through every document.
Definitely, because till the time every word is read and it's read out to you and the lawyer has vetted it, you must never sign a contract anything. Because there are people who have lost out heavily because there is a catch somewhere. As you said, the carpet area, they would say built up and carpet, a lot of people don't know and they pay for something, they get something else. So it is necessary that you tie the builder in a watertight agreement so that even if his time is delayed, if he doesn't deliver on the dotted time, you will get a penalty for that he has to pay. If he is unable to complete the project, you can file a criminal case also against him, not only the civil case. So definitely, the lawyer is to be there.
Can I jump in here, please?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Jayashree.
Say how many developers actually change a document because your lawyer told them to.
But Jayashree, in this market,
why should you buy that property?
Why should you buy that? See, in this market, you yourself have said on this channel that it's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. Just walk away from that deal. How many developers at this point will allow a customer holding a checkbook and a pre-approved home loan to walk away from a deal? What do you think would be more important?
The point is that today the market is flush with stock, but we are not talking about this market will last for, say, let's say 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. But we are talking about a larger issue. And I think one of the things that we have to understand is documents still, with the regulatory bill, it might change. But right now, whatever happens, the documents are not in the buyer's favor. So I would say that...
Jayashree, I'll interrupt you there. In the state of Maharashtra, at least, so the markets of Mumbai and Pune, there is still a regulation. That's MOFA. MOFA very specifically lists out what that document should be. So your lawyer can actually tell you whether that document is adhering to the laws of MOFA or not. If it's not, then A, your builder is committing, is violating that law. And secondly, you just shouldn't take that deal because right now there are plenty of choices in the market. Now, obviously, that's a format. That law doesn't exist in all of the markets across the country.
It doesn't exist in any market other than Maharashtra.
It should. That's something we're pushing for. And hopefully, with the regulator, that problem will get fixed.
Exactly. But there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are stuck with some one-sided documents, and I think you shouldn't shy away. Most women do. You shouldn't shy away from going to a consumer court because the courts consider it very in your favor. Even though the documents are one-sided, I have found that consumer courts have been giving verdicts in the consumer's favor if they feel that the documents have been one-sided.
Also, the Competition Commission has come down fairly hard on developers signing one-sided deals or forcing customers to sign one-sided deals. Also, I want to talk to Karthik about the fact that we know that while you're encouraged, we just talked about the fact that you're encouraged to get a family member to co-sign on a loan with you, but banks do not give loans to 2 sisters taking a joint loan. They'll give a loan to 2 brothers. They won't give a loan to 2 sisters. Again, discrimination because they see some sort of, you'll get married and go your separate ways and then nobody will be able to service that loan. I think that's unfair. Is it true? And why?
You're absolutely right. And there is no such ruling why 2 women can't or 2 sisters can't get together or mother and daughter can't get together and apply for a loan. See, prima facie, the thing for the lender is that as long as you can afford the EMI, as long as you can service the loan, that should be okay. But more often than not, traditionally in our society, what happens is it's either the father or the brother before marriage who's looking at financial matters, and once you're married, then it is by design that the husband or the father-in-law or some other male member in the family is looking at things. Also, on the other hand, what happens is a lot of time women themselves don't want to really take up a step and do anything about it.
There was a very interesting research that came up, which was, one of the companies last year did this research where they went around asking single women, are you confident about your money? It turned out that single women are confident about their money. Married women, on the other hand, are not confident about their money because they tend to hand it over. And when they were asked why, they said to keep the peace in the household and not to upset our husbands. And these are working women. These are women with white-collar jobs in the big cities who hand over their own finances, women who've been managing their money up till the time they get married, who hand over their finances to their husbands because they want to keep the peace. I think that's completely unacceptable. If you're watching at home right now and you don't manage your own money and you've handed it over to your spouse, you need to sit up and take notice. You're putting yourself at terrible risk. Karthik?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that we keep saying in various forums and various places, that it's the men, you can take a little initiative. One of the best gifts that you can give is bring your spouse into the picture, tell them what you have, maybe write a will together, maybe, make a document of things. What if you're not there? How will she even know what you had? How will she know who owes you what?
You're being very kind. I would rather say don't wait for your husband to invite you into that conversation. Demand. You should know what your net worth is as a unit, as a couple. You should know how much money your husband is making. You should know how many bank accounts he has. He should know how many bank accounts you have and how much money you spend on your credit cards every month. It is your right as partners. Financially, you should know everything there is to know about each other's finances. What will it take to get you to take control of your finances? If you want to buy property, as you should, rightfully, and put your name on it, we're here to solve any of the problems you face on the way. Abha Singh, when we were in break, we were talking about the fact that sometimes women spend 10, 20, 30 years looking after the household, looking after everything, and they leave all of the money to their husbands. And if they find themselves single at the end of it, either through divorce or widowhood, they suddenly have no idea where the life insurance policies are, how much money they're being owed, what sort of alimony they're entitled to, what sort of assets are their children entitled to. How important is it to know completely what the net worth of your spouse is at any given point of time?
In fact, I remember a senior police officer who died during an accident, and his wife did not know where he had invested, who had taken money from him. She could not even pay her EMIs, and that time the whole cadre came together to pay off her house loan. So I definitely agree that a woman must know. Also, during your life of 20 years of married life, please don't just let your husband decide where to invest, in whose name to invest. You must insist on a joint property. Your name has to be everywhere, even if it's a bank account, if it's a property, because if anything untoward happens, you are going to be on the roads. And not only forget the accident, even if a divorce happens, nobody is going to be sure that what is going to happen tomorrow. So it is necessary that you may not want to talk unpleasant things, but from day one, make things very clear.
I think Abbas hit the nail on the head. The other thing about us as an Indian society is we shy away from conversations about money. It's not a polite thing to talk about. But what you should do with your spouse is set aside one day every month where you bring each other up to date about the finances. You talk about the value of your assets at this point, the value of your loans at this point, how much money is in which bank account, what you want to prioritize, what you want to leave aside. Have this conversation once a month, make it quick, make it honest. And you will see that as a unit, you just become far stronger. Ruchi is on the phone line from Hyderabad. Ruchi, tell us how we can help you.
Yeah, hi. I have one question. Can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. I just want to know, I'm a single divorcee woman. Can I buy joint property?
Okay. Can you buy joint property with whom? Who's the second?
With my nephew. He's my elder brother's son.
Okay.
Can I buy a property along with him? Will it be treated as either a survivor?
All right. Adhil Shetty, a single woman who wants to buy joint property with... Would you want to take a loan, Ruchi, on this property?
No loan.
No loan. All right, no loan. Abha Singh, that then falls into your court. No loan here. Can she buy joint property and register it with her nephew?
Nothing stops her from buying property jointly with anyone. But the issue is you have to see that how things go later. Whether your nephew, it will be either a survivor, of course, that is true. In fact, if one of the person dies, the second person, the property would go in the second person's name. But in case you have children, then NOC for your share would have to be taken in case it's either a survivor survivor, because whatever is in your name would be divided equally among your children. So yes, you can buy a property jointly, but but automatically on your death it will not go to the other party if there is no will.
All right.
Financially speaking, I want to make a tiny point here. What you can do is, Ruchi, what you do is when you're buying this property, decide how much money each one is putting in. So depending on the amount of money, you want to either go equitably, or you might want to actually specify a share, and that way it will help your children and your inheritors, as the case might be.
So you're saying don't just go 50-50, decide on how much money you're putting in and the other person's putting in and split it that way. I think this circles us back, Abba, to the will. The fact that a will, which used to be something that the rich people did, is no longer something that the rich people do. It's something that all of us have to do if we own property, if we have any assets, isn't it?
Exactly. I think will should be written on day one, because it's not something to shy away from. It's not something to say that something untoward will happen, but it is a very practical and a sensible thing, because that will maintain your relations. Otherwise, families break, children fight with one another, parents fight with their sons, and sons fight with their wives. So it is sensible that you have a will, register the will, register it in the court of law so that nobody can question the will.
All right, so nobody can question the will. I'm told there's an anonymous caller on the phone line right now.
Faye,
yes.
This is...
Yes, Adhil, go ahead. Go ahead, Adhil.
Yeah, Faye, I just want to make a point I want to make a point regarding financial planning, especially joint financial planning, where you rightly said, and Abba rightly said, that both parties should have all information. One more point I want to make, especially in light of financial products today, right, is that a lot of good financial products are jointly designed for the family. So, for example, I recently took a Mediclaim family floater. This actually covers me and my family members on one policy, and it's much better than buying an individual policy for myself and for my wife. It's a family floater. When you take life insurance today, they have something called joint life cover. Right. So if one person dies, there's a life cover, and if another person dies as part of the same policy, there's a joint cover. Home loan, obviously it's been in the news, everyone knows a joint home loan has tremendous benefits, both in the 5 basis points discount if there's a woman as a first or a second applicant, and also the benefits in terms of tax and what you save on duty. So my point, right, is simply that it's not only a question of making the effort so you both know, but genuinely joint family products in every single category are often superior to a standalone product, be it in health insurance, be it in life insurance. And this is a discussion you need to have, because you can protect both of yourself under one product.
All right. I have this other quick piece of advice for the women who are watching right now. With your spouse, sit down and create something that I personally call the panic paper, where you write down all bank account numbers, all insurance policy numbers, where you can access everything. This piece of paper needs to be hidden in a place that only you and your spouse know about. So in case of an emergency, they can access that paper and they have all of the information they need at that time. So if one of you is hurt, I can access a piece of paper that tells me what the health insurance number is, how do I make a claim, where the cards are, what do I do in the hospital. All of that data should be in one simple place. So at a time of stress or emergency, you're not looking through papers, you're not going through your safes and your cupboards looking for documents. You know where everything is. It's on one sheet of paper that you can access quite easily. We have a phone call right now from an anonymous caller, viewer who's on the phone line. Go ahead. Good evening. Tell us how we can help you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, so I picked up a property in Rustamji, Urbania, Thane, that is Gorbandar Road.
Yes.
It's a 2 BHK. It's more for an investment.
Yes.
I just don't understand. We are supposed to get occupancy March 2016, March, April.
Okay.
And so there's a loan also at the rate of 9.6%. So just wanted to know, does it make sense to kind of hold on, or it is a good thing to exit when we get occupancy? So I'm really not sure how the property prices are going to go up in Thane.
All right, so you want to know whether you should hold on or not. Jayashree Kurup, Thane is doing really well right now in terms of property. There is the TCS office that's going to come up in Thane and create a lot of jobs and a lot of demand for housing. Obviously, if she's going to get occupancy in the next few months or in the next 1 year, would you recommend she holds on?
Yes, absolutely, Faye. This is not a market to sell at all. And Thane's prospects, like you said, any place where there is commercial development happening, the returns on your property are going to rise over a period of time. And currently, it is a very weak market for a seller. So I would say that already, since you're getting occupancy right now, your property values you would see a slight blip in property values. But hold on, let the market correct itself. It should take another 12 to 18 months at least before this market corrects itself. Don't sell, hold on to the property, lease it out so that you're not stuck with maintenance, water bills, electricity bills and so on, but do hold on till the markets
the other thing I would worry about is when you bought this property and how much short-term or long-term capital gains tax you would have to pay. Karthik, if she's holding it for longer than 3 years, then there's long-term capital gains tax and she'll have to reinvest that money. But it really doesn't make sense to sell it before that, does it?
Buying or selling is a secondary issue. From a wealth manager's perspective, firstly, the amount of asset composition that you have in your whole portfolio. Now, normally my advice is for every 1 rupee that you have in a real estate, you should have 2 rupees outside a real estate, which is a fixed deposit or a mutual fund or a share or whatever the case might be. Real estate is a very hard asset to have. So whether you should buy or sell is a very factual, matter of fact kind of a thing, which is right now. But if you look at this whole scenario, maybe across your whole career and life, 5, 10 years, 15 years, are you really good with this kind of an asset? Right. Yes, it gives you tax benefits. But you know what? Historically, over the last 50 years, other asset classes such as the stock market have done way better than real estate.
On your screen right now is Majivada. It's just got taken off. It's gone up 12% in the last 2 years. The market has not done that well, Karthik. If I may argue, Majivada stands to do even better.
Absolutely.
Once this building once Rustom Chiabenia is known for the quality that it's handing out, once it's ready to occupy, and obviously when the building is ready, the OC is handed out, then the prices tend to move up. So if she holds on, she stands to gain, doesn't she?
Yes, you stand to gain, but you have to also look at things like what is the rental yield that you're getting, you see. So if your property is worth X and if you're getting some sort of a return in terms of rental, now you need to look at what is the best use of that money. There is absolutely no harm holding a property. On a 40, 50-year-old research, the returns are approximately the same.
We also know from the developer that there's a lot of retail that will come up. So over the next 2-3 years, the price of that property will go up. But I'm very quickly going to take another phone call. We have somebody else on the phone line who doesn't want to tell us her name. But go ahead. Tell us your question.
Hi, I'm from Mumbai, and my sister and her husband just bought a home, but unfortunately her husband passed away, and now she has 20 lakhs pending the loan amount. So what? And there is no insurance in his name also. So what can be done in this situation? What should my sister do?
Is she in a position to service that home loan?
No.
She's not. Abha? Legally now, both the loan and the home belongs to the spouse.
Yeah, exactly, because it must have been a joint property and since they had taken it together. But then if you're unable to service the loan, then I'm sure the loan sharks are going to come. The bank will, first thing is the bank will try to confiscate the house. But I think it would be sensible that you see what is the going rate of the flat, sell it off, pay the loan, keep the rest of money and invest it wisely.
Karthik, I also want to ask you this. Now that's one option, which as we know from the market that we're in right now, Abha, it takes 6 months to a year to offload real estate, which might take a fairly long time. And in the meantime, that loan will continue to take as a non-performing asset. Karthik, if she were to look at the other assets her husband had, there would have been a PF, there would have been a couple of other assets, now all of which will come to her. If she were to look at that gamut, if there's equity, if there's debt, does it make sense to liquidate some of that and to knock off the loan?
Absolutely. That's the first thing to do. So before you would actually land up just selling the house, you would look at everything else that you've got. You would also look at what is the kind of earnings that you need to sustain your lifestyle now in your husband's absence, in your brother-in-law's absence. You see, so what sort of money and what sort of cash flows does she need? Does she already have a house in which they are living, and was this an investment property? Maybe then selling becomes a little wiser sort of an option. Now, depending on what cash flows you need, if you need to bet on that house, you can't really bet on a reverse mortgage, then you might have to sell the house. But if you have the money, if you can get a good rental out of it, and the rental, let's say, will approximately go up by 5-7% every year, then maybe there's a case in which you can consider putting it. But also the most important thing to focus on is what is the liquidity factor now? Because if you don't have liquidity, understand one thing, you might have hundreds of crores worth of real estate, but if you're stuck for cash flows, then that's a very, very hard situation to be in, and basically nobody can help you if you don't have repayment capacity.
Just a quick question. So if there is a debt investment, say like a PF or a PPF that generates 8% and now which will come to her, there's equity. which one should she be liquidating first?
The one which is in a debt component, which is earning fixed income, because then there is potential to create a higher rate of return through other assets.
All right, so liquidate that one first. And of course, this again brings us back to the point that life insurance, you have to have life insurance that covers the loans that you're taking. Both you and your spouse have to have life insurance. It's a non-negotiable. Karthik, a very quick question for you. A question on retirement and a question on women who have to manage their retirement corpus. There's obviously some element of property involved in that. Now, there's the one thing is the home that you have and the cash flow. You touched upon that in the previous, the previous question. The cash flow that you have to worry about. What advice would you give to someone retired watching right now who's wondering how to manage her money?
You know what? One house absolutely in your name is a must. Whether you're a lady who's senior citizen or if you have a daughter and if you want to gift her one. I mean, let a lady have a house in her name, basically. That's one. Second is look at the cash flows that you have. Based on the cash flows, you will decide whether to have a second property or not. Your cash flows could be generated either through a rent that you have, or it could be generated through through your own incomes or through your own annuities or through any other investments that you have. There are lots of interesting options. So even if you have an X amount of money, you can produce cash flows right from about 6% to as much as 10 or 11% also. So you need to be very, very judicious about how you're going to fund your cash flows. At the same time, just make sure that you manage and maintain for the properties,
You have to get a really good advisor whom you can trust.
You need to balance out both these things.
That's a very careful decision. Pooja is on the phone line from Bangalore. Pooja, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, I wanted to know, I booked a property when it was on pre-launch in Gurgaon, and the place that I actually had chosen, wanted from the agent was somewhere near, close by to Delhi. And he told me that the property was from a very well-reputed builder and that there were very few blocks left. So he asked us to book it quickly because then we would not have any more blocks to book, left to book. So we did it online and we booked the block online and we paid the amount online. And he also told us that it was just a booking amount. In case later we came and had a look at the property, you could always get the refund back. But later when we checked, we actually went to Delhi and saw the place. We found the place was very far from Delhi and it was not something we can have in another 5 to 6 years. So we asked them to cancel it and return our money, but they refused to do it, saying that no, as per the application form, which he had sent it to us online and which we had signed and sent it back to him, he said that we cannot refund it because in the application form it's mentioned that your whole earnest money is going to be forfeited. Initially, when we had asked him what the earnest money is, he told us that this is 1% of the booking amount.
Sure.
That is what was told to us. And later, when we actually inquired from them, then they gave us a complete different pictures. Even online, when we were calling up, few people said, their help desk said that yes, it's 1%. And later, when we again called up again to confirm, then they said no, it's the entire earnest money. So they're not
giving them. They're not giving you your money back right now, Jayashree.
Yes.
There are several websites that that sort of solicit buyers online, including the one that you work for. What can a buyer do in a case like this, when she's parted with the money without actually physically seeing the property because it was online? And we live in a world right now where we don't have a regulator, where there's no regulator to say that everything you see online is mandated the truth and there's nobody verifying this sort of information. How dangerous is it and what can she do about her money at this point?
She might have, ask her to go back and check whether any of this information was given to her by mail. This is a mandatory requirement. When you're working digitally and you're not seeing either the property or the person you're transacting with, it's extremely important that everything is documented in mail. And whatever is promised to you is not verbal, it has to be in mail. Unless that is, it is documented, please do not put your money.
Let me quickly ask her, Pooja, do you have any sort of documentation on what was promised to you or the entire story that you just told us?
We have the receipt, the 5 lakh which we sent to them. We have the receipt, and
you'll have to switch off your television in the background, Pooja, because that's going to distract you. But tell me this very quickly. So the whole point of the fact that earnest being only 1% and the rest of it will be returned to you, do you have that in writing on an email?
No, that was just spoken to us.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. So without
But the earnest money it's her money and it cannot be forfeited because some developer said it. I would suggest, Pooja, go back to the consumer courts. The verdict will be in your favor. I don't think the developer will get away with it. You have, since you have it in writing, you have legal recourse, and consumer court is your best bet.
All right, consumer court is your best bet. But of course, Pooja, it'll be a slightly longer run because you don't have anything in writing right now, but you should be able to get some of your money back. A quick lesson for the rest of us who are watching to make sure that you don't part with any money with some sort of contract in hand. I'm told we have time. We have one last viewer on the phone, and he's calling on behalf of his sister. Govind Ram has a question for us. Govind, we're running out of time, but tell us very quickly, what's your question?
Actually, my sister bought a property in 2000, booked a property in 2002.
Okay.
And it was handed over in 2004.
Right.
Okay, now she wants to sell this property, but now she's not able to sell the property because the developer didn't give her the completion certificate.
Okay.
So now what is the way out?
Is it the completion certificate or the occupation certificate?
No, it is the completion certificate. The developer didn't give it to CIDCO.
Okay, the developer didn't give the completion certificate to CIDCO. Jayashree, does that sound, something? Does it sound like something you need to have in order to sell? The property? If the property is registered in her name, she should be able to sell it.
Nevertheless, she will have a problem because the new buyer will ask for the completion certificate. That is always mandatory, and that's why we keep telling people to go for it.
I want to ask.
However, if it is.
Yeah, Jayashree, I want to ask Adhil this question. Adhil, if there was a loan taken with SBI that was then paid off, then obviously the bank would have access to some of the papers. Does it make sense to contact SBI and find out if they have any sort of the papers that might help her, sell that house?
If she did take a loan on it, right, the bank will have the original documents, which it will return when the loan is paid off. I think the question to ask is, did she have a home loan on this property wherein the bank has any of these documents?
Govind, did your sister have a running home loan on this property when she bought it?
Yes, it was given by SBI, and the loan was cleared. Everything was cleared.
Everything was cleared. And then SBI give all of the documents back to her at that point?
Okay, still the banks, we have just kept it in the bank. We have not taken back.
You haven't reclaimed those documents. Adhil, the loan was paid off with SBI. They haven't reclaimed all of their original documents. It might make sense to get that done as soon as possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as you repay your home loan, right, you go to the branch from which you took it, and they actually hold in custody, in very secure custody, all of your original documents. So please collect those documents. They're a full and final original copy, and then check it for completeness. Then you sign off with the bank saying, I've received all my document, it looks fine, and then see if those documents are sufficient to then sell the property.
Right, Govind, so that's the first thing you need to do. Go to the bank where your sister took a loan and reclaim all of the documents that the bank is holding right now, because you've paid off that loan, so those documents should come back to you. These are the original house papers. Once you have those papers, it's likely that all of your papers are in that entire docket. But we've also run out of time on this show, and we have to wrap it up really quickly. Phone lines will continue to be open. We will stay here on this channel to help you out with anything you need. And we'll continue to answer questions from our women viewers. I'd like to thank our panel, but on your screen right now is our contact details. You can reach me personally on Twitter, and you'll find a copy of the show uploaded on our website and our YouTube page if you want to look at any portion of it again. Get in touch, give us feedback, leave us your question. Thank you for watching.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/magicbricksnow. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at magicbricksnow. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/magicbricksnow.